Hello, and welcome back to Let's Get Lit. In today's video, we're going to be going over The Knight's Tale, Part 1 and 2 from the Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer. Alright, are you ready to time travel back and see just exactly what story the Knight has in store for us? Let's get to it. The Knight starts his tale by telling the reader of Theseus, a noble conqueror who won many great battles. He was known for his wisdom and his chivalry, and he also conquered Scythia, where he married the queen Hippolyta and brought her home to his country, which was Athens, along with her sister Emily. The Knight says that he could tell of the glorious battles that Theseus fought in order to win Hippolyta. However, he doesn't have the time for that, so he'll just get on with his story. The story starts with Theseus riding back into town after his success in battle. Along the way, as he's entering the city, he sees a group of women 2 by 2 kneeling on the highway, crying and making woeful noises. Theseus asks, "Why are you crying?" at the homecoming festival. He asks, is it because they're of his good fame, and is that why they cry? He asks them who wronged them, and that if it may be amended, why they're all dressed in black. The women tell Theseus that before the war, they all used to be duchesses and queens, but now due to the war and the upheaval, they were all wretches, and it is plain for them to see. They cursed fortune for her fickle wheel, and making them so poor. They ask Theseus for some small drops of charity from his heart. They also state that they were at the temple of the goddess Clemency for the last fortnight. They go on to explain that all of their husbands had died at the wall in Thebes, and now Creon, who ruled over the city, will not let their husbands' dead bodies be buried or burnt. Instead, they are given to the dogs for prey. They ask again for help. Next, Theseus gets off his horse and goes to confront the women, and to go comfort them. He swears an oath to them that he will get the revenge on Creon and that all of Greece would speak of it. The Knight then tells the reader that Theseus and everyone with him turns around and heads back towards Thebes to get revenge on King Creon. That night, when they stop to rest, he sends Hippolyta and Emily back to Athens so that they may live while he goes on to seek revenge. The Knight says how Theseus looked like Mars with spear and dress as he rode his way back to Thebes. When he arrives, he fights Creon and makes a wreck of all the walls and beams and rafters. He also restores the bodies of the husbands to the ladies that he had met while coming home. The bodies were then able to be buried with honor. The Knight then tells the reader that Theseus, after he had slain Creon, goes into the field and starts to go through all the bodies and strips them of their gear from foot to head. The pillagers make busy work, and as they're going through all the bodies, they come across 2 brothers, one Archite and the other Palamon. Neither one was dead, but neither one was also quite alive either. They could tell that these 2 were brothers and born of royal family. Theseus has both of the men brought back to the tents and looked after. Then, as they were going home, he takes both the brothers with him and locks them up in the prison, and says that no gift of gold would set them free. The Knight then says that some time passes, about a few years, until one morning in May when Emily was bright and awake and ready to start the day. The Knight describes Emily in all of her beauty, how her hair was yellow and braided behind her back, and it was roughly about a yard long, and he also says that she had fair skin and was very pleasant to look at. The Knight says that on that morning in May, she went out into the gardens picking red and white flowers to make a garland for her hair, and she was whistling and singing a very lovely song. She just so happened to be singing right past the place where the 2 brothers were being held. Palamon was going about his usual day as prisoner when he looked out of his jail window and could look down into the gardens, and he saw Emily. When he saw her, he was astonished by her beauty and cried out, "Ah, me!" Archite heard this and asked his brother what was wrong. Why did he cry out? He should know of his fate and that they'll be stuck in this prison for the rest of their lives. Palamon tells Archite that it is not prison walls that make him cry, but instead a beautiful woman who is down in the garden. He says that she is as beautiful as Venus, and then Palamon falls to his knees and begs that if it should please her, she should help him escape the prison. At the same time, Archite looks out the window and can see Emily in the gardens, and he's also struck by her beauty, and he says that he must have her at any costs. Palamon instantly gets angry with Archite when he says this. He asks Archite if he's joking or if he's serious, to which his brother responds that he is very much serious. Palamon tells Archite that they're brothers and they should be bettering each other in every way, and also that he professed his love first, so technically Palamon gets to have his girl. Archite tells Palamon that he can't even tell if the woman is a goddess or a real person, and that if he can't tell what she is, he can't possibly love her, but that he knows she's a beautiful woman, and that he has a burning love for her. Archite also says that in love, every rule is broken. He also tells his brother that there is no use for both of them pining over the woman since they're both stuck in jail, and there's no hope of getting out. They're like 2 dogs fighting over a bone that someone's already taken the broth from. The Knight tells of one day when Prometheus Prometheus comes down to visit Duke Theseus. Both of them had been friends since childhood, and Prometheus came to visit his friend and stay for a while. The knight notes of how this man had a great affliction for Lord Archite, and tries to persuade Theseus to setting him free. One day, Theseus actually agrees and sets Archite free from his prison. Theseus tells Archite that he doesn't ever want to see him again, and that if he does, he will be beheaded. So, Archite makes a quick haste and gets away. After Archite has ran away, he muses about the fact that though he may be free from his physical prison, mentally he's in an even worse prison. At least when he was imprisoned at the castle, he was able to see the beautiful Emily in the garden. But now that he could go nowhere near Theseus for fear of being beheaded, he was in his own personal hell. He says that now his brother has the better luck of fate. He gets to see Emily every day, and that unfortunately, Archite has nothing, and no one can help him see his true love again. The knight then jumps back to Palamon, still chained up in the prison. Palamon knows that Archite has been set free and curses him because now our knight will have the chance to win his lady's heart. Palamon wishes that he could have just died while fighting in Thebes instead of being held prisoner, forced to see the love of his life every day, but can do nothing about it. He knows that he will have to stay in prison forever. The knight then talks about how for a little while both of the brothers are unhappy and are upset that they won't be able to be with their true love, and how they're envious of each other. The knight ends part 1 of his tale and asks the audience which brother they think has it worse. Part 2 of the knight's tale opens up with Archite, and the reader learns that he's suffering from a lover's malady. He refuses food, drink, he becomes very skinny and frail, he starts to become paler and paler. He also can't help but cry if he hears any sort of music or singing, and that's how lovesick he is. One night, as he's sleeping, he sees Mercury in front of him, and Mercury tells him to go back to Athens to see Emily. So, he gets up immediately and begins to head for Athens, not caring if he dies. Before he leaves, he looks at himself in the mirror and can see just how much his appearance has changed. He hopes that because his appearance has changed so much since the last time he was in Athens, no one would have noticed him. Archite gets to Athens and goes to the gate of the city looking for work. While at the gates, he found a job and rose through the ranks due to the great job that he was doing. He then was able to move up to the offices with a chamberlain, which led him to working in Emily's court. We learn that when Archite goes back to Athens, he changes his name to Philostrate. As he's working for Emily, a lot of people recommend him to work for Theseus because of the great job that he does. Theseus decides to hire him and becomes very impressed with his work that he does. For 3 years, he works for Theseus, and Theseus has a lot of admiration for him. The narrator then shifts focus to Palamon and gives us a brief history of what's been going on with him. We learn that for 7 years he is continually in jail and starts to grow madder and madder. We then learn that in the 7th year, in the month of May, on the 3rd night, with the help of friends, he was able to successfully drug his jailer and escape the prison that he'd been staying. We learn that he runs very fast and runs away to make sure he's not caught. He hides in the forest right beside Thebes. His plan is to gang up with a bunch of other friends and fight Lord Theseus for Emily's hand. We then go back to Archite and we see that he's getting up and getting ready for the day. He decides that he is going to go into the woods because it's May to celebrate the season and for sport and play. While he's in the woods, he sings to himself and talks to himself, not knowing that Palamon was crouched in the bushes very close by. Once Archite finished singing, he began to talk to himself and go through the little bit of history that had happened to him. How he and his brother were descendants of royalty and of Thebes. How the new king of Thebes found him and his brother and locked them away. How he was able to be released from prison, how his appearance has changed, and how he was able to work his way back into the city of Athens, and how he now goes by the name of Philostrate, and how he's still very much in love with Emily. Once Archite finishes talking, Palamon springs forth from the bushes, surprised by what he's heard. He tells Archite that he is indeed Palamon, and that he has gone back on his oath to leave the country and never look at Emily again. He says that he was able to break free from jail, and though he has no weapons, he is prepared to fight Archite. Palamon gives him the option of either dying or leaving Emily alone. Archite tells Palamon that if he really loves Emily that much, they should both fight for her hand, and whoever wins gets to have Emily. Archite notices that Palamon doesn't have any equipment to fight with him, so he tells Palamon that he will come back later that night with food and with bedding. Then the next day he will come back with swords and armor, and Palamon can pick the best sword and armor he wants to fight him with, and that again, whoever wins will get to have Emily's hand. Palamon agrees to this, and both part until morning. The next morning arrives, and Archite gathers up the armor and swords just like he promised Palamon. He then traveled his way into the woods for their meeting and for their fight. When they see each other, they don't say hi, they do not say good morning, they simply help each other put the armor on, grab their weapons, and begin fighting each other. The narrator then shifts focus from the brothers fighting to Theseus. Theseus is getting up this morning and decides he's going to go hunting in the woods. As he's riding in the forest with his wife and Emily, he stumbles upon Archite and Palamon fighting. Theseus immediately gets in between them and tells them to stop, or else he would strike the next person dead immediately. He then asks who they are and what they're fighting for. Palamon responds and tells Theseus everything. How he was Palamon and that he escaped the prison and that he'd been hiding out in the forest, how he's fighting his brother Archite, who was released years ago but came back to Athens under a new name, new disguise. Basically, the entire plot of what Archite has been doing, and how he's been using the name Philostrate. Palamon says that both men are wretched and both men equally deserve to be killed. He says that both are in love with Emily, and that's why they're fighting. At first, Theseus is enraged with anger when he hears all of this. He says that he should kill both of them. However, Emily and his wife implore him not to kill them, but to let them go because they're fighting over a lover's quarrel. As Emily and his wife are protesting, Theseus's heart begins to soften. He states that both of them had the chance to flee the country, and they could have both been royals in their respective areas. However, because both are lovesick and have risked their entire lives just to even try and get another glimpse of Emily, then he tells the men that he is going to pardon them both. So Theseus tells them that he's made a decision if both agree to it. The decision is he will give them 1 year to both go east and west to gather an army of 100 people. They will then meet back in 1 year and have a battle to see who will be the lover of Emily. Point blank, period. He says that all of this will end when one of them is dead and one of them being wedded to Emily. Both brothers instantly agree to this decision and of the battle. So each brother goes off to begin building up an army for the war. This is where part 2 of the Knight's Tale ends in the Canterbury Tales. Join us next time as we go over part 3 and 4. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe, and I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, stay lit.